I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. You know, Music City really is a choir town. As you may have heard referenced more than a few times on this show, the Music City moniker actually goes back to the Fisk Jubilee Singers, touring the world, being told they must come from this musical city. And, you know, it's not a competition about genres, types of music, but as kind of a choir kid here, that fact does make me a little happy and even a little nostalgic. The beauty of choral music is that you are making a sound that you really could not make alone. It is, by its nature, a communal act. That's part of the Bluegrass Mass, performed here by Vocal Essence. But tonight it's going to be performed by the Nashville Symphony Chorus, a rare kind of annual event, choral first concert at the Skirmahorn Symphony Center. Joining us now is conductor Tucker Biddlecombe, along with two of his singers, Renita Smith-Crittendon and Heaven Howard. Thank you all for being on the show.
We're excited to be here.
Thank you. Good luck tonight. Just a reminder to listeners, we're streaming at youtube.com/@WPLN. So if you're watching, feel free to shout out our guest if you like. Tucker, is this a piece that, you know, the choir, the symphony choir was familiar with? Is something you've done before?
Yes. Right after the pandemic, it was the first performance that we did when we were just getting out of masks and figuring out what singing looked like again after that crazy time period. And then a group of the chorus traveled to New York City. We performed it at Carnegie Hall with a lot of the musicians that we're collaborating with tonight.
Yeah, well, it's by composer Carol Barnett. And let's listen to just a bit more. Again, this performed by Vocal Essence. Yeah, so it seems like a mass that's made for Music City here. But yeah, I mean, how many times do you conduct banjos in your position?
Very unusual. And, you know, the tuning with a banjo, really tough, but it's close enough for bluegrass, so everything's going to be fine.
Well, I guess the voice is just tuned to the banjo, right? Whatever the tuning is.
If you tune to the banjo, bad things are going to happen.
Okay. Renita, obviously you're sitting here next to your conductor, who, you know, I am told is really great at his job. But you know, what makes a good conductor? You know, somebody that people want to take the time out of their busy lives to learn the music he says we're going to do and make it as good as can be. What does it take? What does he have?
Oh my goodness, where to begin? He has this great presence. He has the ability to reach each of us individually. He seems to know our weaknesses, our strengths, and he has a wonderful knack of getting what he needs musically to make it better.
Heaven?
I think it really just has to do with his patience and his countenance. So even when he is disappointed, he always likes to emphasize that he's not mad, he's just really intense about the music. But I think it's really important to express, even if it's not perfect, that sort of patience in those moments.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, producer Josh Deepan dropped in on a recent Monday night rehearsal.
Just now, just one, all right? There's a family where that happens, especially if you just explore the acoustic at that point.
Yeah, if you could, you may not have heard that if you aren't wearing headphones like we are, but Tucker's telling the choir that he did get a goosebump, but just one goosebump. I assume that you're hoping more by showtime, but yeah, how do you balance this sort of like encouragement and critical instruction when you're working with like a volunteer choir?
That's the trickiest part, I think. If you're working with some professional musicians, they're there to do a task, and they bring a certain level of expertise, and there's an understood sort of musical journey, but it's not really that different with the chorus. Just because they are a volunteer group first, that makes them very unique in music, is that they're extremely dedicated to their craft and they're also very dedicated to one another. The next thing is that our job every week is to match the level of a world-class professional orchestra with a bunch of people who don't necessarily do music solely for a living. I think it's the greatest challenge that a choral conductor can have, is to bring an amateur group up to the level of great professionals, and I think we manage it every time.
Renita, in my limited experience, I feel like every conductor kind of is known for some kind of mantra that they just sort of beat into the ground. I don't know if this is for sure Tucker's top mantra, but listen louder than you sing, I think is one of them. What does that mean to you when you're in the choir?
Oh, my goodness.
Listen louder than you sing.
Never louder than beautiful. So
Okay.
I need to listen to not just the soprano section, but all of the other sections too.
Yeah. Heaven, what is it about singing with a choir? I don't know. Do you do much solo singing?
No, not particularly. This is where I get a lot of my singing.
Yeah. How does it compare to being kind of out a voice alone, like needing to actually not stick out, not be heard individually?
I think it comes with a lot of comfort and community. It's a lot of being able to listen to other people and you know that you're not alone when you're singing with a community.
Yeah. Tucker, do you how often might you reference this sort of communal act thing that I think is so beautiful about choral music? Because, when you're just sort of living and breathing and trying to get those notes right, much less that we're blending together, I might get lost sometimes.
Well, our people get a free voice lesson from whoever they're sitting next to every night first. But at the second, I try to give them 30 seconds here and there to say, take a look at this part, chat with your neighbor about how well that went or how well it didn't go. And that building of community, what it does is it not only strengthens their relationships, but it also makes them feel like they matter. My favorite thing about a chorus is that nobody sits on the bench, is that everybody has a job, everybody has a role, from the person who is a professional singer who contributes a great deal to the sectional tone, to somebody who's there as a blender, as a bridge voice, somebody who is a really, really good musician but doesn't have a lot of experience singing. Everyone has a role, everyone has a job. It's not necessarily like athletics where there's the starters and the bench players. Everyone has a job and everyone feels valued.
Wait, you're saying you have specific terms for types of singers who are in your choir?
I do. I have like 3 good ideas in music, and this is one of them, I think, is that there are 5 different kinds of voices. There are core voices who I just want to sing normally. I don't want them to blend or anything. Then there are color voices, which are either a little darker or lighter than other voices, and I need to kind of seat them accordingly. Then there are the bridge voices, very soft, not much vibrato, sing in tune, and they are the connective tissue of the chorus. Then there are the blenders, and then finally the musicians, people who are stronger musicians than they are singers, say pianists who haven't had voice lessons or things like that. And the combination of those kinds of singers, I think, make a great chorus.
Renita, do you get labeled, or do you have to come up with, I don't know what Tucker thinks I am, but where do you fit in the 5 types?
Well, it's interesting. I think I'm probably a blender.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, my mom always told us in our family that the farmers aren't soloists, okay? We're middle voices. Heaven, does this mean anything to you, this sort of like type of voice contributor that is in a choir?
I just try not to think about or stress about which voice I am, and I just listen to the advice that he gives and do my best.
There you go. I'm Blake Farmer. This is Nashville. Conductor Tucker Biddlecombe and Renita Smith-Crittendon and Heaven Howard of the Nashville Symphony Chorus are kicking off our choral show. Nashville is known for songwriters, certainly solo artists. Tucker, where does choral music fit into that Music City identity right now?
That's a great question. When you're a songwriter, when you're in a band, there are as one of you, there is 5 of you. You are working together to create a product for that bar that's very excited or the concert hall that's very excited. What I love about a chorus is there's 100 of us. In the Nashville Symphony Chorus, there's 160 of us. For Vox Grata, there are 50 of them. For the Crim Singers, there are 35 of them. They are united in one purpose, into bringing music not only for an audience, but for one another, for the emotional support that brings, for the cultural understanding and support that brings to what they do. And I think experiencing it together is the best thing that we can do. I think it's the last sort of communal art form in music that we can create, where the more people, the better.
Yeah. You got fans in the YouTube stream at youtube.com/@WPLN. Francis Perry says, big fan of Tucker's, consistently brings outstanding performances to Music City, USA. You know, I maybe it's because I don't sing in a proper choir anymore, and I just kind of thought, well, I guess choral music may be, on the way down a tad. But, of the few choral studies floating around, it would actually seem I am wrong. Choral America has been doing these studies each decade. In the last report, several years old, but there was actually a higher percentage of us singing in choirs than 10 years prior. It's like 1 in 6 adults, like age 18 and up, are in a choir, which is hard to imagine. Do you see that here, Tucker?
I do. I think people are craving analog experiences. I think people are craving community. I think they crave being in the same room and rowing in the same direction. You can't AI a choir. There's no way to do it.
Well,
I
hate to say we did make a promo for this show with AI voices. However, not our first choice.
But that's my favorite thing is that, if we weren't all on that stage tonight, the hall would be silent. And that's my favorite thing about the skirmer horn, is that if the orchestra's not there, there's no sound being made.
Heaven, I'm not going to take a stab at your age, but let's say just generationally, are you seeing this among younger people?
Can you clarify?
Well, I just mean that more people might be interested in choral music?
I would say so. I think that it's harder to continue as you get out of school.
Yeah.
It's easier in school because it's a lot of opportunities and a lot of time that you can contribute to community like that. I think it's harder when you graduate. But I think because of how disconnected our society can be, that people are craving that community. And I do see a lot of younger people, at least in the Nashville Symphony Chorus, than I would have imagined.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned time, because I think time is a real currency with people, especially with younger people who are leaving college, coming to a work environment. Your time isn't as abundant as it once was. And I'm just always appreciative that people spend that time currency with us.
Renita, why have you made the time over the years?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I
Like it
with
feeds
the
your soul
symphony
kind of a
chorus.
thing? What do you mean love it?
Oh, I started in '84. And
84?
I was a youngster then, yes. And that was back in the days when you actually read the newspaper and I saw the ad.
You might have sung with my parents who were in the symphony choir long ago, Richard
That's
and Sharon
quite
Farmer. I don't
possible.
know.
That's quite possible.
Okay.
But music has this wonderful way of not just soothing the soul, but it also communicates other ways. It's like I can be sad, I can be happy, I can be angry, all from music. And music can balance out all of those things and feelings.
We're doing a piece
that's why I
tonight
like it.
called Angel Band that we were talking about before. And, we added the instruments last night for the first time. And as professional music experiences go, we have one rehearsal to do it. And I'm up there conducting, just trying to keep everything together and sort of, I'm doing my job, doing the best I can to do my job. And I look out and I see the chorus and I see 24 people kind of wiping away tears. And sometimes I think as directors, we can forget the kind of impact that this music not only has on the audience, but on our own singers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Renita, take me to those moments that, I don't know, the chills, the tears. Listen, on the way into today to the studio, I was, because of what we were doing, I was listening back to some of my favorite hits. And man, they just take you right back. What is it about the music that gets you?
I think because I am a seasoned singer, it can actually take me back to certain things that were going on within my life. And it's like with Angel Band. It's like, oh my goodness, do I have more years ahead than I do behind me? Have my friends all gone, or am I looking forward to seeing those who have left? My parents, are they going to be there? It's that kind of a thing. You really have to settle into it and go, okay, there's more to just this place.
Yeah, I was listening to Sing Me to Heaven this morning, and it's just like, man, I've heard that enough times in certain settings. You're just like, ooh, that'll get me going. Heaven, what about you?
Could you clarify the question?
Evan, I'm really good at just tossing you a ball.
Yes.
Take it.
But yeah, the kind of emotional response that might come from you. What do you find will kind of get your goosebumps, the tears that come unexpectedly?
I fear I don't cry in music as much as I ought. But really, anything that's beautiful.
Yeah. Like a chord locking in kind of a thing?
That kind of thing. I'm less attached to lyrics, and that's in my own personal music journey. Yeah. But if it has a good melody or a good harmony, that's something that can draw up some emotion.
Yeah. Well, everyone is different, okay? No, we don't all have to tear up at the same things, and time may give you some of that. Let me ask, Tucker, can anyone be part of this? How intensely do you audition people?
It is a pretty intense audition process because our rehearsal process is relatively intense.
Oh, I see.
And there's a sight reading element of what we do that's very important, a music literacy aspect of what we do.
Because if you're going to do this much music, you need to be able to...
That's right, and we don't have a lot of rehearsal time to be able to do that. So, but there's also, I want to make sure that the voice is healthy. That being said, we have singers from 22 to 77 in our chorus, and they all pass that re-audition. But I also, if
you make them re-audition?
Oh, yes. We re-audition in the chorus every 2 to 3 years, and that's part of what we do, and we audition new singers as well.
And Renita has passed every
time.
Every time.
It's beautiful.
Thin thread.
Well, the show tonight is at the Skirmerhorn Symphony Center at 7:30. It's bluegrass mass, although there's more than that, correct? Kind of some...
That's right. Yeah, some American folk hymns. If you come, you've probably heard these sometime before in your life, and it'll bring back that same memory that Renita's talking about, and hopefully the intonation that Heaven is talking about.
Well, we'll listen to a little bit of that from a rehearsal, mind you, on our way out here. Conductor Tucker Biddlecombe, singers Renita, Smith-Crittendon, and Heaven Howard. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
We're going to go to a break with a little more from that recent rehearsal of the Nashville Symphony Chorus. When we come back, we'll get the story of a group that started almost by accident. We'll get to know the Crim Singers, hear a bit of their wide-ranging repertoire. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
And my soul, though stained with sorrow, fading as the light of day, passes swiftly o'er the waters to the city far away.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and the Higgins Firm, assisting clients with nursing home neglect and serious personal injury cases. Online at thehigginsfirm.com. And Vanderbilt's Master of Liberal Arts and Science program, offering a variety of interdisciplinary evening courses with flexible scheduling for working professionals and lifelong learners. Now accepting applications. Details at vanderbilt.edu/MLAS. And Tennessee State Parks, inviting listeners to learn more about overnight escapes featuring cabins, lodges, and camping under the stars. Tennessee State Parks. Nature is outside your door. More about planning stays at tnstateparks.com.
Listener support for WPLN News is what keeps vibrant, reliable, and local stories on the air and freely available for all. That's why we say that your participation matters more than the amount you choose to give. It's simple. WPLN would not be here for you without listener support. With your support, the entire community benefits. Give today at WPLN.org.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. If you're watching the video stream at youtube.com/@WPLN, that was a mid-break selfie opportunity that we were taking there. But this is a show, folks, for the choral kids among us. A lot of us used to sing through our youth, and then, you do have to work a little harder to find a choir to be a part of when it's no longer kind of school-based. You might also get a little rusty, too, but there are plenty of opportunities in Music City. And next up, it's the Crim Singers. Patrick Dailey is the conductor. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Nicole Simone is the assistant. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And Brooklyn Cook is, I'll call you a core member. Nobody told me that, but I assume that if you're here, you probably are.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
And she graduates next week, folks.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Graduates from TSU. What? I didn't ask your major.
I'm a commercial music major with an emphasis in performance.
Commercial music, but still going to be performing. I like that. All right, so Patrick, someone might assume that this ensemble that is named after TSU voice professor William Crimm, like he might be the one up there. But no, it's how did this come to be the W. Crim Singers?
Picture it. North Nashville, summer 2018. Mr. Crimm asked me and one of my other good friends and another core member, Avery Williams, to put some singers together for a Freedom School program at Clark Memorial United Methodist Church. We said this was fun. Somebody said we should do it again. We were on a Facebook group chat. I didn't think anything of it. Next thing you know, we start singing, we get on albums, and it just grows from there. So it just came out of literally a request from a beloved elder who has taught so many of us, and that's where we came to.
Well, now has choir will travel, folks. The W. Crim Singers. Let's listen to a little bit of a recent performance. I'm directing Liv Lombardi to turn that down as Patrick Dailey is trying to conduct this recording here in the studio. His form is beautiful, folks. That's the W. Crim Singers performing. I believe that was at the Scarrett Bennett Center just a few months ago. Nicole, what kind of music are you all working on right now?
So we have tasked ourselves with being historians and preservers of sacred black text in music. So you'll hear spirituals, you'll hear hymns, you'll hear gospel, is what we generally do. We do just about anything, but the bulk of what our rep is going to be is that sacred black text.
And what's that about? Is it seen as like this is? It's essentially all black singers as well. I mean, is that intentional on purpose? Yeah.
Yes, it's very intentional. It's something that it was a very intentional thing that came from an unintentional thing. And it was just, there was a need for it. There wasn't really anybody preserving this music. Of course, we have the illustrious and the wonderful Fisk Jubilee Singers, of where I am an alum.
I missed that in my notes running up to this. I should have put that in your biography as I was introducing her. Good grief. But former Fisk Jubilee singer, maybe once a singer, always a Fisk Jubilee singer.
Always, yes, okay. Always. But we do have, the Jubilee Singers who introduced that genre and that type of music to the world. Essentially, it was something that was sacred and that was secret almost amongst the Black community, but introducing it as an art form, and then it's dying out, but it's something that's so important to our history and to our culture that it needs to be preserved. It's that oral tradition of this music and of this text that we just want to carry on.
Yeah, and it does seem, having sung some of those in a mostly white choir feels different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Coming from an all-black choir, I can feel this in a very different way.
Yeah, there's a different emotion and there's a different connection to it that other cultures are just not. They're going to be able to perform the music, but there's something about it that other cultures are just not going to be able to express.
Brooklyn, what's that connection feel like for you to this music you're preserving?
Honestly, I went to a predominantly white school in high school. So when I went to an HBCU, this was my first real exposure to Black composers. Really? And I didn't really have such a love for classical music until I heard those pieces. The Crim Singers have been such an amazing place to be. I've learned from the best in the business. And I can say that those pieces have brought a great connection to me and a great appreciation for classical that I didn't have before.
I'm Blake Farmer. This is Nashville. Patrick Dailey and Nicole Simone lead the W. Crim Singers, which includes Brooklyn Cook. It's a show today featuring some of our top choral groups in town. Patrick, you have been pretty clear. This is a Black ensemble, but it's also this inclusive space.
Yes.
How do you navigate that balance? Because it's like you kind of have to be exclusive, but with the intention of being inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. We are inclusive. So I will say that it's a Black ensemble, but it is also Black culturally.
Yeah.
One of our members, Eric Galvan, I often cite him. Eric is of Mexican descent, but grew up in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, and grew up in the Church of God in Christ.
Got it, Kojic. All right.
All right. So because Eric is of that tradition and is a part of those things, Eric is welcome to the community. We have members who may not fully identify as African American, but have African American heritage or African American descent in some way. But also further to that is ensuring that this is a safe space for all of these people of African descent or all of these culturally Black folks. So people who are of every orientation and gender identity, of varying abilities even, right? Those the varying abilities and on all of these things, it's so important because oftentimes the misunderstanding is that, some communities don't really love on these folks. We want to put them away, but we're saying the opposite. We say that we want to highlight these folks. We want to love and bring them into the fold, put them forward as leaders and as further core members of this sound. Yeah.
Nicole, you talked about bringing in even younger singers as a kind of training ground for them. What do you hope they take from this experience? And I say this with this: there's a lot of kids, my own children among them, who I think, how are they going to learn to read music? Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah. No. It's so unfortunate that it is a craft and it is a outlet that is fading away and going away. And Mr. Chalamet was kind of crass when he said it, but there was a point.
Timothy Chalamet. Okay, yes.
That the nobody's concerned about the art anymore, and that's because it's not as accessible. Mm-hmm. It's not because it's not interesting. It's not because it's not beloved. It's just because it's not accessible to the communities that actually really, really need it. Much like Brooklyn, I went to Catholic school my entire life. I was one of maybe 10 Black girls in my class, if ever. So the music that we sang and the opportunities that we had were nothing compared to what I got when I went to an HBCU, when I joined a professional vocal ensemble of people that looked like me, that had stories like me.
You're saying you went to Fisk?
I went to Fisk.
And you had not sung spirituals before?
No. I grew up in church, so I sang gospel. Yeah. I knew what it was, but singing it, absolutely not. Yeah. No. But I wish I would have when I started learning these things when I was younger, because while I still had an appreciation for it, I would have had an even greater appreciation for it. And the charge that Patrick leads and that Brooklyn is leading now, being a part of this ensemble to hopefully introduce this to the coming generations, to the people who didn't have an appreciation for this type of music. And then, oh, wow, what is that? Wait a minute, they look like me too? Oh, so you must understand what I'm going through. There have been people in the group that go, I never thought I could do this. I didn't think I was a good enough singer. I didn't know if I had time. I didn't know if I would be welcome. But you guys are such a light, and you're so welcoming to what I want to do and what I want to learn to do. And you're giving that space. And that's all that we try to do is just create the space and the opportunity.
Brooklyn, can you talk about this, about being a soloist, perhaps by nature, and then being part of a group where you ain't supposed to stick out?
There is a art to being able to conform to a choir and being a soloist. It is two very different things. Thankfully, I've grown up in choir, so I'm able to, it actually took more to promote myself as a soloist than it did as a choir member. But the difference is just being able to know that it's bigger than you. It's not something where it's time to let you shine, but to let the music itself. So being a part of that creates, I think, a teamwork that you don't really get anywhere else. And it's also relying on others to know their music, but also know that if I'm falling, I know you got me. So
that's beautiful.
It really is.
That's beautiful.
Well, Patrick, can you talk about this as like from the conductor's standpoint? Because I could see if you got a group of 40 people, and somebody's like, "Hey, listen, I can't make it to the concert anymore," or something. I'm sure you've never dealt with that with a group of volunteers. And you, how would you make the case? It's like, no, you will be missed.
Ooh. No,
they're listening.
They are listening. No, we've. If I'm going to be transparent for a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
Life happens to us all, right? And so we have had people who have had to leave the community because of life. They got busy. They moved away. Different family commitments showed up, and because they're such a deep part of the family, there's one group chat of a group of friends that I kind of have trouble even going into because it's like, you're in there and I'm like, I miss you because we love you so much, right?
Yeah.
But we never stay out of connection with them, right? So that's one of the key pieces, is making sure that we're still communicating. And when you are in town, one of the first things, oh, you're in town? Come to rehearsal. Because part of the rehearsal is we're going to just be family. We're going to talk. We're going to laugh and sing together. And we just want to just love on you a little bit. That is part of that big culture for us.
I just want to make a really quick correction. So the most that you'll probably see at any given performance is about 35 to 40, but we actually have about 80 members in the greater Nashville area and about 125 if we consider those that have, because once a Crim singer, unless you leave, you're always a Crim singer. So we have about 125 across the nation. Yeah.
Nicole, can you talk to me about, you've got this Jubilee singer pedigree that I've just learned about live on the air. But I wonder, the name Fisk Jubilee Singers is sort of dropped all over town when it comes to referencing Music City, appropriately so. And but I also wonder about the connection. I mean, I was fascinated to learn of some of that history of being on the early days of the Opry 100 years ago and all kinds of things. But I wonder these days how sort of some of these choral groups appear in popular music. Like, do you feel like you're part of that Music City?
Absolutely. Mainly because Music City is not a monolith, much like all of these choral ensembles. It's not a monolith. They might stick to one particular genre, but it takes a whole bunch to make up these people. Just as Tucker said before, we came on, you have the blenders and you have the core and you have the bridges and you need all of these experiences to build these groups. And so to create Music City, while the term was coined in the 50s by a radio host, the first group to travel outside was this group of young Black kids who have never been anywhere. Some of them used to be enslaved. Some of their parents can't read or write. They have every disadvantage working for them or working against them, and yet they accomplish this major thing. And while that might not be a popular way of life, it's a popular story. And so us singing this quote unquote not really popular or not pop music doesn't make it any less important or any less popular to the nations. The message that we're getting out is what makes us popular. The community that we're trying to display is what makes us popular. And we still sing in other arenas individually or as smaller groups and things like that. We'll still cut gospel tracks. We'll still, I sing behind a rapper. Like that is something that we do. So we don't resign ourselves to just this. It's a part of a legacy that we're building, but it's all of us and all of our individual things that make up this great institution and this great ensemble.
Well, we'll listen to a bit more of the Crim Singers on our way out here. But first, I want to say thanks to Patrick Dailey, Nicole, Simone, and Brooklyn Cook of the W Crim Singers. We'll go out with them rehearsing a spiritual and a choral classic here. Thank you. All right, folks, we've got time for one more choir, and this one is for the high-end voices. When we come back, Vox Grata. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
In Jesus, my soul's been anchored in Jesus, my soul's been anchored in Jesus, Jesus, lover of my soul, let me
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, helping donors make more possible through the power of community giving. More at cfmt.org. And Amazon, proud sponsor of WPLN's daily show, This Is Nashville, engaging our differences so we can discover our unity. More on Amazon's community work at aboutamazon.com. And Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, serving the young and young at heart right here in Tennessee for more than 80 years. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee. Learn more at bcbst.com.
Films from Brazil have been making waves at the Oscars in recent years. That has Brazilians thinking more about who gets to make movies.
Brazilian cinema has been dominated by mainly white men since the beginning of Brazilian modern history. There's still a lot of stories to be told from different angles.
That's next time on The World.
This afternoon at 2 on 90.3 WPLN News.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. Well, we're going to end this choir show at the top of our range with the women of Vox Grata. Jeanette MacCallum is the founder and director of Vox Grata. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
And Hannah Baisley is a singer in the women's chorus, maybe around since the early days. Am I making that up?
It's been a little bit. I joined in 2017.
All right. Well, let's start with the name, Jeanette. Vox Grata. I wish I could say I remembered Grata from my Latin class, but I had to look it up. All right, so something like Grateful Voices?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how does that name kind of show up in, how the organization operates?
Sure. So right from the very beginning of our organization, we really wanted to present our concerts to benefit organizations that serve the women in the Nashville area. So other nonprofits that do really wonderful work with women. And, so at our concerts, we do not charge admission, but we have a platform for those organizations to present their mission. And then we accept a free will offering to benefit those organizations. So we're really happy to be able to say that for 13 years, we have donated really over $50,000 through our audience members to serve women in the community.
So that's always been in kind of the DNA of the organization.
Yes, it has. And because the name meaning Grateful Voices, we are a community of women with hearts for doing more than just presenting an excellent choral program. And I'm grateful for all of those hearts in the room every week.
Well, those themes tied to social causes. As an example, you all sang Rise Up by Jake Runstad at a celebration of women's suffrage a couple years ago. Rise up there, Vox Grata performing. Jeanette, how do you choose music that matches an issue like voting rights or human trafficking?
Well, it starts really with our beneficiary partners. In the case of Rise Up and the suffrage concert, we actually collaborated with the Crim Singers on that program.
Oh, really? Yeah, in the last segment.
Yeah, and the beneficiary we chose was the Tennessee Women for League of Women Voters. And it was actually in the year of the last national elections that we performed that concert. We did a work, brand new work by a composer named Andrea Ramsey, who composed the Suffrage Cantata, which is a full-length cantata that traces the history of voting rights, particularly for women in the United States. So it was a powerful program.
What made that work really kind of exciting to us as singers was that the text was excerpts from the writings of the women. So you were singing their words, and you could really feel them.
Yeah.
And it was very powerful.
Well, and you know, the musical stuff that's out now, I'm certainly resonating with that too, that, you put it to music. It becomes very powerful. All right, talk to me about the women's voices. Certainly I see how it aligns with kind of the issues you all might get involved with. But Hannah, back in the day, at least I got the sense you often had women's choirs because there weren't enough dudes to balance out a choir. So it's like, okay, there's a mixed choir and there's a women's choir because there's so many women who want to be in choir. Obviously, you could sing in any choirs in town. What do you get out of having, kind of a treble voice choir?
It was new for me. I had sung in a lot of SATB choirs, and I really thought in many ways that was kind of the best place to be for me. But when I began singing with Vox Grata, I immediately felt like I had just adopted a lot of friends that just had similar, needs to feed their souls with music, but also do something more than just make music. The social justice part of that is it gives us a purpose to really hold the text to a high standard, hold the music to a high standard. And I realized that just because we're all women, that's, the quality of the singing is fantastic. And we also have an additional conductor, Susan Kelly, who works side by side with Jeanette, and having two conductors that are so knowledgeable and experienced has really elevated this group to I think, a very high level. So I don't really feel like I'm missing anything just by being with all these fantastic women together.
Well, I don't mean to suggest that you're missing. People don't ask that question when they talk about men's choirs, do they?
Though. I have a friend that says, "Oh, don't you miss singing in a choir and hearing the other parts?" And I really don't.
Yeah, Jeanette.
And I will say, too, that there's been a shift in that mentality at the university and college level.
Really?
Probably 15, 20 years ago, if you were in a university ensemble, you'd audition and the top, singers would end up in the mixed choir, and then the leftovers would end up in the women's choir. But that has really changed, and I'm grateful for that. Some amazing treble ensembles are now gaining national attention, and at the college and university level, they're equal-footed now, and that's
well.
Really
you have
gratifying.
a long experience with this, right? Because were you a director at St. Cecilia, an all-girls school, for a while?
I was, and that's really where my love for treble repertoire began. When you're working only with high school girls' voices, you have to do a deep dive to find really quality repertoire for treble voices. Fortunately, composers today are really changing that landscape, and there are, really fine compositions being published for treble voices.
It's made for them, not sort of adapted
exactly,
for them.
Because it is different to compose for women's voices. There are lots of pieces that are published for mixed choir, and then the publisher will say, well, let's issue this in a treble version, and it doesn't work the way it does when conceived for treble voices.
And with that being said, I'll add that composers now know that cities across America have highly trained women's choirs in Brooklyn and, Portland, San Francisco. So they're not writing for high schools. They're writing for really advanced choirs that are there to do justice to their music.
So even having the choirs around the country, gives the writer someone who he knows that will perform it at a high level. That's beautiful. He or she.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that come out of my mouth? Hannah, so, we obviously, it is very fascinating to have everyone in here today because everyone from all these choirs knows everyone else. The choir world is still a small world here in Nashville. A lot of singers are also in other choirs. Like, why do you sense that, and I assume it's not just Nashville, but that like the choir community is so interconnected rather than competitive?
Well, I mean, there's no room to be, catty about any of the choirs. We're all here to we have one purpose, and that's the joy of music. And I'll just share that Nashville and Tennessee in general, music is in a lot of people's blood. It's just innate. I didn't grow up with that in Florida. When I was in high school, I knew like 4 people who played guitar. When I came to MTSU 25 years ago, I would go downstairs in the dorm common area, and there would be like 8 guitars, and this was concrete majors and just people who weren't music majors.
It really
was
is
weird
different
to me.
from your Florida upbringing.
It was. Everybody seemed to have they could sing harmony, and there was so much music here versus where I grew up, and I was like the lone music kid with a couple of other people in my high school. It was just Nashville and Tennessee was different. So there's just a lot of appreciation for music making. And Nashville has a lot of choirs because there's a lot of music that has to get sung.
Well, as a native, I may just not appreciate it. I'm Blake Farmer. This is Nashville. We're wrapping up our choir hour with some of the leaders of Vox Grata. I have a point of pride when, I'm at a concert or something and they're like, sing the chorus. And it like ends up in 3-part harmony. It's just the audience. And they'll be like, oh yeah, of course Nashville can do that. And you're telling me that really is maybe something we need to appreciate, that people here learned to sing tenor and alto.
Yeah.
Well, Jeanette, you've called choral singing the cheapest form of therapy. What does it do for people? What have you seen emotionally, mentally that other activities might not?
Well, there's actually a lot of research about this very thing. Chorus America has published numerous studies, scientific studies, that address this issue. It may not be known to your listeners that when a group of people sings together, their hearts actually begin to regulate and beat together. And that is just a beautiful phenomenon. And, there's also a lot of studies about how, rates of depression are lower among people who sing together. Elderly people who are, likely to be more isolated in their older years that sing together are happier. All of this is very well documented. And so I've always called it the cheapest form of therapy.
Well, yeah, it's this and running, guys. Take your pick. You've got this major commissioned work coming up that I want you to talk about for a little bit because the topic is tough. It's about addiction. How did this come about to tackle something that heavy through choral music?
Well, my personal story is that my own daughter struggled with substance misuse for about 10 years. It was a terribly difficult time for my family. And I turned to choral music, as I always do, and I turned to poetry to try to, find other voices. You always want to know you're not alone. And I discovered that despite a lot of social justice work in the choral field, there wasn't really anything out there yet that allowed people to express through music the anguish that you can experience either as someone struggling with it or as a loved one. And I began talking with a composer almost 10 years ago about trying to tackle this subject. And so we are going to present a world premiere next year in Nashville, and it will be about 45 to 50 minutes long. It will sort of center on the mother's perspective. We have some incredible poets, including Kate Daniels from Vanderbilt here in Nashville, with lived experience. And so we're just getting started on this rehearsal process and the community engagement that will go along with it, really hoping to elevate the dialogue in Nashville about substance misuse.
Hannah, is this what you're talking about when you're talking about, kind of needing that extra reason to get out, put in the time and effort in a busy schedule?
Absolutely. I mean, we've sung about some pretty difficult subjects, and I feel like it's our job to find a way to bridge difficult subjects with art. Art does not always have to be beautiful. Art can be difficult. You can watch some films and say, "Oh, that was a lot," and sometimes it feels that way with our concerts. But you gain perspective, you gain empathy, and knowing that we directly work with an organization that will benefit whom we're singing about just makes it even better.
Well, is the Addiction Commission, the world premiere is not until next year, but you do have upcoming performances. May 5th at Westminster Presbyterian, correct me if I'm saying anything wrong here, and May 7th, St. George's Episcopal. Both start at 7:30. I believe it's the same material, correct?
Yes.
Well, Vox Grata founder Jeanette MacCallum and singer Hannah Baisley, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you, listeners, for letting us indulge in choir music this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. If you missed yesterday's show, we heard the incredible tale of biochemist Billy Hudson, founder of the Astronaut program that's housed at Vanderbilt. There's some details that will stick with me, maybe the rest of my life, but the inspiring part was having someone talk about the benefits of finally starting therapy at age 71. Listen at thisisnashville.org or wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Josh Deepan, directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Liv Lombardi is making us sound our best. The masterminds behind our theme music are LaRange and Namir Blade. You can comment and tell us what you want to hear on the show by singing us a message. Yes, singing us a message today. That's the rule. At 615-751-2500. You can also find us on Instagram at thisisnashville_WPLN. I'm Blake Farmer. Go ye now in peace.